that case, you can schedule that, and then you can create more reports. You could even create reports using other tools like Report Builder then off of those data connections that you've created within your pivots in Power Pivot. So that is a very, very quick run through Power Pivot there. What I'm going to do is I'm going to close some of this to save some cycles here on my laptop, because I want to bring up I'm going to run through the rest of the slides, and then before we close up for the day today, I want to show you some of the new exciting stuff that's all Silverlight based for reporting services here in 2012. I'll also get a chance to demo for you then as well the BI semantic model, which is that same kind of modeling capability that I just showed you. Okay, we'll just do that. That's fine. That I just showed you in Power Pivot. It is the capability to do that all within the Visual Studio and analysis services in SQL Server 2012. All right. So the Silverlight reporting is zero footprint. There's no client tool needed, no report builder like or anything like that needed. It's a Silverlight based tool. The design surface and the dashboards are all from a web page, and it uses the BI semantic model to essentially to build those reports from. The data is put onto, so you can make a really cool dashboard and report like this without needing to be a designer. And you do that because you're going to really just use pivot tables. So just like we had in Excel with pivoting off of source data, you're just going to select your fields and they will drop onto areas on your design surface. And then you can select what type of report that you want that to be. And you can do things like you can hook up time slicers to those. And because it's Silverlight, you're going to get really cool animations. You're going to get transformations, all the really nifty graphics and capabilities of Silverlight now will be available to your to your users. And let me just make sure that's starting. There we go. You will also be able to save these reports out to different formats. You can do that too today in SharePoint. I didn't demo that for you, but you could have saved those performance point charts to Office. And the same thing with these reports here, these interactive reports within Power View will also be able to save out to formats like into your slide decks. All right, so let me make sure this thing is still running. There you go. Okay. See what happens? They name too many things too much similarly within Microsoft, and so I forget names of Power View versus Power Pivot versus PowerPoint. See that? Anyway, so yes, you can save those reports into PowerPoint as well. Now, the idea of bringing this all together is that within SQL Server 2012, you get these features within the Enterprise Edition. There's also a brand new edition that's coming out in SQL Server 2012 called the BI Edition. So some of these things you can purchase for a licensing that might be a little bit less for you with the Server Cal model, the Server and User License model, and that is called the BI Edition. And the idea is that all of these tools, the Power View, the Power Pivot, and the reporting services will integrate directly with SharePoint out of the box. So one of the big changes with reporting services here in SQL Server 2012 is that it's going to integrate with SharePoint right out of the box. And it will exist as a, actually I think I have a slide to tell this in a bit more detail. It will exist as a, wrong slide, there you go, as a SharePoint service now. So that also, because it's a native SharePoint service, gives you the ability to take advantage of the claims authentication within SharePoints using claims aware WCF endpoints. And yeah, so it's much easier to integrate with SharePoint essentially, and it really is a capability out of the box. When you install SharePoint, when you install SQL Server 2012, you will see those options on your installer, and we'll walk you through some of that. You can still do the standalone SQL Server reporting services if you prefer to do that. Now, one of the great additions for BI is to be able to build those in-memory cubes as easy as I was showing you in Excel through what's known as the BI semantic model. So the MDX style multidimensional models within the unified dimensional model of analysis services that's been there for a long time, it still exists, and they're adding the essentially what's the Vertipack style, which is the compression and the in-memory analytics that came from Power Pivot. Yeah. And so that is being included now out of the box with SQL 2012 Enterprise Edition or the BI Edition. I'm going to show that to you. It looks a lot like what I showed you in Power Pivots, except that it's within Visual Studio. So I keep wanting to call it BI Development Studio, but I'm not sure if it's going to be called BI Development Studio once 2012 goes generally available. I'll demo that for you. And what else should we say? It does not replace UDM. You can do either. I would think that you might want to think about it in terms of scale, right? Because you will use BISM for bringing data in. You're going to schedule those updates. You're probably going to want to, you're going to do Power View reporting off of in-memory analytics. That might not scale to the same level as things like, the 20 terabyte SSAS cubes that not a lot, but that some folks have out in use today in the world. Those will probably still stay within the UDM model, at least for now. Let me see if there's any other features here I wanted to tell you before I move on. I don't think so. I'll do a demo of the new stuff in 2012, just to wrap up on some of these things. 2008 R2 is focused on business intelligence in terms of the in-memory analytics with Power Pivots, with reporting services integrated into SharePoint, and the ability to use SharePoint 2010 for the BI Center and your dashboards with performance point services. The SQL Server 2012 is really focused on extending that into the engine of SQL Server so that you can natively, out of the box, be able to make in-memory analytics, build semantic models, do Silverlight, really cool Silverlight dashboards and reports on top of that with Power View. Some water. So that being said, let's take a quick look at what some of this stuff looks like in SQL Server 2012. So in my VM, my Hyper-V here of my, this is actually the CTP, this is not the release candidate. I haven't updated it on my laptop yet, so I'll just run you through this one. This is the entity relationship diagram that might look a lot like a data source view to those of you that have done analysis services in the past. This, though, is the this is the project type of a business intelligence analysis services tabular projects, which is in addition to the multidimensional project, which is the traditional UDM that you would be doing with SSAS today in 2008. So you see how this looks, smells, tastes a lot like what I showed you in the ER diagrams from Power Pivot. And this is how you can create a in-memory analytical model for your users. And I did not have to know how to create the cube. I didn't have to know how to design all that. I just needed to build the relationships around the the facts and dimensions, the star schema essentially. I didn't really need to know too much about that because it can self-analyze and detect the relationships already. But let me actually change the view back to the data view. So if I go back to the data view, again, it looks a lot like the spreadsheet within Power Pivot that was within Excel. And this is bringing data in from different sources, and you can see that here from my existing connections. And I have a connection out to my SQL Server database. So that's bringing data from a relational source. This is a SQL Server database. And then I can refresh that data. So what you can do is you can schedule the refreshes for that data. The data comes in through here, through the BI semantic model, and then is stored in analysis services. So those models sit down here. This is analysis services, looks a lot like it does today, and the databases sit under here. And I have this configured for the tabular models to be able to live under here. So once you've designed your tabular model and you have that running, what you can do then is you can then build the brand new SharePoint type, the SQL Server reporting services update called Power View, or it used to be called Project Crescent. So I think on my CTP here it's going to call it Crescent. So in this folder, I'm able to store, this is the a connector for a BI semantic model. See, the file type is .bism. So what you can do from that is you're then able to create reports off of that. So right now they're called Crescent reports. With the release candidate and going forward with the GA version, those are going to be called Create Power View reports. This is an example of one that was already done off of that, and I'll show you how that's created. But it's really just going to be using what looks a lot like pivot tables from Excel, and the ability to just select your fields and to have those draw onto your design surface. So let me see if I can grab a few more cycles back on my laptop while that's running. I'll close my Visual Studio. In case you didn't pick up on it, this is your first introduction to SQL Server 2012. And if you are a BI user in SQL Server today, you'll notice that I was using Visual Studio 2010. So within SQL Server 2012, the data tools essentially and the BI tools have been updated to work with Visual Studio 2010 now. So you don't need to go back and use SQL Server 2008 any longer with SQL Server. And I'll close this guy to give me some more cycles. Okay, so this is starting to spin up, and so you can see that what's different between the reporting here and the reporting in the existing reporting services is that this is all Silverlight based, and this is what a finished product looks like. And so this is the same URL that I would use if I go to design this too. And what's nice is you get all kinds of nifty things that Silverlight enables, like this time slicer is able to view and display the time as it changes with my data. So I essentially attached a time slicer down here to this bubble chart, and you can still drag this around. And because it does the Silverlight transitions within the graphics, that enables you to say that as a user trying to look at sales, for example, or revenue in this case, right, I'm able to see how things changed over time. Not just that they did, but I can see that there was a big change from July 2010 to January 2011. So maybe that quarter we had all kinds of things going on, and it's easier to reflect that and to see that there. In addition, you can do things like you can include images, so that your filtering can be based upon images instead of just text within the display and design surface. So all kinds of nifty things. And then the way that you essentially edit this is you would have a person within your organization that really is responsible for these reports, who knows the data. And you look over here, and on the right hand side, all you're going to get is a series of pivot tables. And this is coming from the in-memory analytics, the in-memory cube from analysis service that's new in 2012. So it's going to be super fast, easy to access, and you just select the type of chart that you want there. So I could take this chart over here, and I can just delete that, and then I can add in some data around my let's take something from sales here. We'll take revenue up here, and we'll also take the region name and a state code along with that. And see how fast that is, because it's coming from in-memory analytics, how easy it is to build, because it's all just point and click to a pivot table. All right, so with that, I'm out of time. We're going to stop here for this week for today. I appreciate everybody's time. We're going to have these as often as we possibly can, about an hour to learn a little bit more about SQL Server database and BI. And hopefully you enjoyed the top new features in BI and SharePoint for SQL Server and for SharePoint 2010. So with that, I will say have a nice day, everybody. Talk to you next time.